Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotar Shata Shri Srimat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parirajikacharya Ashtottara Chaturshi Srimat His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gora Premanande. Okay.
Hare Krishna. We are very fortunate to have with us today His Grace Devavrat Prabhu, is a disciple of Sriman Vaisheshika Prabhu, and who is known for his book distribution, famous book distributor. So in the line Prabhuji also. So he has taken last year Vrata, so his name, to distribute hundreds Chaitanya Charitamrita set, and he has completed recently in December. Now
We completed that in May. Completed it in May.
completed in May. So Prabhuji is from Los Angeles. He takes care of ashram, Brahmacharya ashram there, and he's also very powerful youth preacher and very well studied Srila Prabhupada's books, amazingly. That we'll come to know when we hear from him. Today morning also we heard, and yesterday questions for youth. So we heartily welcome him here in ICC Temple. Let us take this opportunity to hear from him today on the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, chapter 5, verse 35. Why did Lord Chaitanya take sannyas? We will hear from him. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Minitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Radati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamsta Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Yavari Paschatare Satarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Niti Namine Shri Varshabhavani Devi Jayataya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnanam Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhurya Ujvala Prema Dhya Sri Rupa Nuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shaktis Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Sadanta Dantanta Harine Namom Gaurikishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambode Padambojayate Namaha Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidanandanamine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate Gaur Virabhava Bhumeswam Nirdesa Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Shri Jagannatayate Namaha Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratusse Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopeshwa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarundasya Kripa Sindhuda Evata Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Durgame Patininantasya Sakalataragateyamuhu Svakripa Yastudanena Santa Santa Valandanam Nande Nishaya Tirtham Parayoni Patyat Vidvasakatam Sata Edharahandravini He Sadava Salakame Bhavihaya Dhira Goranga Sandhikarane Tirthariyagam. Tonight I was told by Sivana Gauri to prepare a topic, and I was thinking about all day what I should speak about. And then, mid-afternoon, I remembered that this upcoming weekend is Makara Sankranti. For most people, if I'm saying it properly, for most people, Makara Sankranti is a new year, right? In India, it's a new year. Right? It's the beginning of the month of Magh, which marks the beginning of the sun going into the northern horizon. Correct? Many people see it as a day to perform pious activities and maybe go to a holy place. But what does it mean for one who's a follower of Sri Chaitanya? And what significance does it have in the life of one who is trying to move towards developing love for Krishna? And actually, there's a very significant event which takes place in Makara Sankranti, which Vaishnavas all over the Gaudiya world celebrate and remember with deep emotion. It's explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam that the pastimes of the Lord, out of his compassion, anugrahaya bhaktanam manusam dehamas, bhajate tadasi krita yat sudva tatpayobhava. We're locked in. That the Lord, he displays his human pastime for the purpose of attracting his human-like pastimes, for the purpose of attracting the souls of this world to the realm of transcendence. And it's not a very mystical thing. In one sense it is, but actually it's quite scientific. It's simply just as when one goes to a movie theater. I remember when I was a child, I would go to a movie theater, my parents would bring me, and sometimes there would be movies of pirates, sometimes there would be movies of superheroes. And when the child goes home from seeing that film, he's absorbed in acting like a pirate, acting like a superhero. Correct? This is the natural inclination of the soul to want to hear something about someone and then mold one's life around that which they've heard. The Lord is the source of all these inclinations which we have in this world, the source of all these activities which we engage in. Explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Udvam alam adasakam ashpatur prabhu hasam Vedashmi yashvatarani yastam veda vedava. That this world which we experience is a realm which is simply a reflection of a world which has the same level of variegatedness, but the difference is whereas this world is a reflection, that world is the actual substance. This world is the shadow of that substance. Give an analogy to help you explain this. It's just like if you see a tree sitting on the bank of the water, say a mango tree. I don't know if mango trees grow next to rivers, but if they do, it's a tree that grows fruit. Mangoes grow on the side of rivers. It's okay. It happens. So a mango tree is growing on the side of a river, and it's reflected into the water. And people see the fruit inside the water. And instead of going to the tree which actually has the substance, the mango itself, one tries going into the water and grabbing the mango in the water. Despite the fact they try to grab that mango that's in the water, what happens when they try grabbing the mango? Instead of getting a mango, they get wet, drenched. I like that word, get drenched. They get completely wet. In the same way, when we try to touch the things of this world in a mood of enjoying them, yehi samsparsta jaboga, that when we try to touch the things of this world, those material objects actually drench our consciousness with their qualities. And when those qualities become imposed upon the mind of the living entity, those qualities force us to act in ways which go against our original nature as an eternal spiritual being. And those activities, the result of them is dukkha. So just the sense is interacting with the sense objects for the purpose of enjoyment. It's the rule of material suffering. But it's not that it's not that variegatedness doesn't have any substance in reality. It's just the mood in which one approaches it and the object in which they're approaching has to be adjusted. So rather than trying to hear about the people of this world, rather than trying to hear about the heroes of this world, the pastimes of Krishna, anugrahaya bhaktana manushan dehama, bhajati tadasikrita yat shudvata tarovava. The pastimes of the spiritual world are meant to attract the attention in the hearts of people existing in this world, to attract their minds, to attract their attention, to attract their emotions, that by hearing those pastimes, one becomes shifted from being attracted by the shadow but towards being attracted towards the substance, and not being attracted towards the substance in a mood of enjoyment, but yet shrut vatat parovava, but approaching that substance in a mood of service. This world is just a reflection of that original transcendental spiritual world which is full of eternality, full of awareness, and full of blissfulness. And the pastimes which descend from that realm of transcendence, they carry the same quality as that realm of transcendence. And when we hear those pastimes and we develop an emotional connection with them, when we have a stake in those pastimes, this is what's known as Baba Baba Anupradapana Mukha Samasta Bandhanas Baba Baba Anupradashayakati. That hearing those pastimes and hearing the devotion that flows through the hearts of the devotees who are existing in those original pastimes with Krishna, those pastimes rub off on our heart. And the standard devotion that we hear about in those pastimes becomes a asset in our life. Baba Babanu Kadashayakati. This is the principle of Tat Baba, that it rubs off. In the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are unlimitedly merciful, unlimitedly attractive, and extremely accessible for the people of Kali Yuga. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being the Namo Mahavarannaya, the Mahavarannaya avatar, Shri Radha Vinod, Shri Goni Sai, Shri Jagannath Prabhu, Subhadra Mai Ki. Being Ananda Leelaya Maya Vigrahaya, Hemamba Divya Tapsundaraya, Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapadaya, Chaitanya Chandraya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu possesses a form of Ananda Leelaya, a form which is full of blissful pastimes. Ananda Leelaya Maya Vigrahaya, Hemamba Divya Chavisundaraya. And he is so transcendental and so beautiful. Maha Nandalilaya Maya Vigrahaya Hemamba Divya Sundaraya. Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya. And he's interested in bestowing upon the world love for himself by hearing those pastimes. In this pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taking sannyas reveals some of the deepest moods of devotion which can manifest in the heart of a devotee. And by hearing those pastimes in a mood of attention, in a mood of longing, in a mood of eagerness, then that mood of devotion will rub off on our heart. There are Vaishnavas who are so absorbed in this particular pastime on the day of Makara Sankranti that in certain mutts in the Gaudiya Vaishnava world, from Makara Sankranti and 3 days after the day of Makara Sankranti, they eat very simple food and they increase their hearing and chanting due to the potency of this pastime. They give up the needs of the body and they adopt a mood of renunciation due to the potency of this pastime. And this is the pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taking sannyas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sannyasa lila is not just a ordinary story, but it's an emotional journey which, when one hears attentively and one tries to understand the deeper reason for Mahaprabhu to take sannyas, then one actually develops a desire to want to enter into that pastime, to want to experience that pastime over and over and over again. Swadu, swadu, pade, pade. So with the close, fast approaching day of Makara Sankranti, I thought it'd be nice if we could discuss this pastime in loving Vaishnava association. So when the day of Makara Sankranti comes, we can experience some feeling in our chanting of the holy name. We can experience some longing for the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and reflect deeply on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime in us, purify our hearts. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a verse, 11th canto, chapter 34, which says, Bhakva sudus yaja sure sitaraja lakshmin. Dharmishta Aryavatasa Yaragara Ranyam Mayamrigam Dayata Yepsitam Advadantvad Vande Mahapurushate Charanaravindam. This verse is a very special verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam because it's coming shortly after a verse in which Karnabhartana Muni is predicting the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Varnam Kusa Krishna Sango Pangar Shaparthi Jagyar Sankirtane Praya Yajantihi Sumedis, describing that Krishna will come in the age of Kali Yuga with his various associates with his various weapons and paraphernalia, and he'll perform and inaugurate Sankirtan Yagya. And this particular form of Krishna will not be a blackish Krishna, but will be a golden form of Krishna. And the two verses preceding this verse, or proceeding this verse, are verses glorifying the activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this particular verse, it's described by the Acharyas that within this verse is a description of not only Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but embedded into it is also a glorification of Krishna and a glorification of Ramachandra. But today we will look at it from the angle of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sannyasa lila. The verse says, O Mahapurusha, I worship your lotus feet. You gave up the association of the goddess of fortune in all her opulence, which is most difficult to renounce and is hanker after even by the great demigods. Being the most faithful follower of the path of religion, he thus left for the forest in obedience to a Brahmana's curse. Out of sheer mercifulness, he chased after the fallen conditioned souls who were always in pursuit of the false enjoyment of illusion, and at the same time engaged in searching out your own desired object, Lord Shamasundar. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had met Ishwar Puri in Gaya, he had returned to Navadvip as not as Nimai Pandit anymore. He was Nimai Pandit, but the mood of Nimai Pandit had completely transformed. Previously, Nimai Pandit was a very dry scholar, absorbed in studying Sanskrit and studying logic, and he was a bit arrogant with his disposition. He liked to argue with different scholars as they would come, and he would chase people on the streets just to embarrass them and show his prowess in logic and debate. And all the Vaishnavas desired within their heart that this Nimai Pandit is such a beautiful and intelligent young man. If he could just be a devotee, he'd be so wonderful. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showing us all that we don't come to devotional service through our own endeavor, but rather the gift of devotion is bestowed by the association of icons. Krishna Bhakti Krishna Krishna Bhakti Mula Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Hoya Sadhu Sangha Krishna Preme Krishna Preme Krishna Preme Teno Puna Mukta Anga. That's a fish around my brain a little. Krishna Preme Teno Puna Mukta Anga. That at the beginning stages of devotional service, Krishna Bhakti Sangha is the most essential root. The root of Krishna Bhakti is the association of devotees. And the desire of the devotee for us to become Krishna conscious is ultimately what will allow us to become Krishna conscious. The Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being the example for the age of what it means to be a devotee, what it means to be a pure follower of the Shastra, coming in the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not only spreading love of God extensively, but he's also setting the perfect example of Vaishnava dealings. So he's revealing that it's only through the desires of his devotees was he able to become a Vaishnava. So going to Gaya, he considered that meeting Ishvara Puri was the greatest gift which he could have received, and he had opportunities to serve Ishvara Puri. And in the process of meeting Ishvara Puri, he desired to receive initiation from him. And when he received initiation from him, Ishvara Puri examined the character of Nimai Pandit, and he said, you know, you're a bit of a fool. I don't consider you qualified to study Vedanta. So therefore, I feel it wise if you just focus on chanting the holy names of Krishna. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. He started chanting the holy names, and what happened is he started to go completely mad. He started to cry profusely. He started to roll on the ground in ecstasy like a madman. And he really began to lose his mind and lose all control and lose all sense of his external surroundings, chanting the holy names. So he approached his spiritual master and he said, "My dear Guru Maharaj, what kind of mantra have you given me?" And Ishwar Chandrapuri, he said, Evam Vata Swapriya Nama Kirtya, Chitanarago Jitachita Utai, Hastiyato Rotati Roti Gayam, Unmadava Nindanti Lop. He quotes this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he said, "My dear boy, you have understood the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This verse, Evamvata Swa Priyanama Kirtya, this was considered to be the essence of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's saying that if one follows the vow of chanting the holy names of Krishna on a daily basis, then in due course of time, that holy name, the potency of that holy name, will cause one to go completely mad in love for Krishna. And that madness for love of Krishna will be displayed through the shedding of tears, through the shivering of the bodies, hair standing on end, and one will begin to roll on the mat, laugh and cry like a madman, and lose all sense of worldly prestige and all sense of worldly reputation. He will be completely aloof from the opinion of the world. So being very happy that his disciple Nimai Pandit had understood the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam, he instructed him, Natogao Bhakta Sange Kara Sankirtan Krishna Nama Upadeshe Kara Sarvajin. He told Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "My dear boy, please go on chanting and dancing like this in the association of the devotees. Please continue chanting the names of Krishna with great love and great attention. And furthermore, go out and teach this chanting of the holy name to everyone that you meet." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately left Gaya and returned to Navadvip. And when he had returned to Navadvip, it was noticed that he had changed. Advaita Acharya, Srivas Thakur, and all the devotees of Nadia were in complete ecstasy that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had become a devotee of Krishna. He had become a madman, just like all of them. For Advaita Acharya had called upon Nimai Pandit simply for the purpose of his descent in order to spread the names of Krishna throughout the world. Through the loud crying of Advaita Acharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended in this world. So every night, the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, Mukunda Datta, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srivas Thakur, the entire Panchatattva, Gadadhar Pandit, Mukunda, Murari Gupta, all the associates of Nadia, they would gather in the house of Srivas Thakur, Srivas Angam, and they would hold these nocturnal kirtans of Premanam Sankirtan, and they would bolt the door. Only those who were qualified to participate in that kirtan were allowed to come in. So one night there was a brahmana who had a bit of a envious disposition, and he was demanding, "Let me in. I want to participate in this kirtan with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I want to see what all these devotees are doing." The next day, because of not being allowed into the kirtan, while Mahaprabhu was going to the Ganga to bathe, he told Mahaprabhu, while taking his Brahmin thread and then breaking, he told Mahaprabhu, "I curse you to never experience material happiness." And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took this as a great lesson. For Mahaprabhu to honor the curse of the Brahmana, as is being said here, he left in the force in obedience to the Brahmana's curse in order to honor the Brahminical status of life. Mahaprabhu accepted that curse on his head. And this marked the beginning of events which gradually led to Mahaprabhu taking the sannyas. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued with his kirtans in Srivasangam, and eventually he brought those kirtans outside of Srivasangam, and everyone in Navadvip began to become mad with chanting the names of Krishna everywhere they went. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, feeling the deep emotions of love for Krishna, specifically the Madhurya Rasa, which is available exclusively in Vrindavan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to chant, Gopi, 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 Gopi. And some scholars of Nadi at that time, who were a little bit uninformed of Mahaprabhu's intentions and Mahaprabhu's purposes, they said, you see this Nimai Pandit. Has he lost all sense of discrimination and he's simply chanting the name Gopi Gopi? Doesn't he know the power of chanting Krishna's names? My dear Nimai Pandit, you should just go on chanting the names of Krishna. Why spend your time chanting the name Gopi? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you mean that Krishna who left Sita due to um, due to the rumors of a watchman? You mean that Krishna who stole the kingdom of Bali Maharaj? That same Krishna, the Krishna that killed Bali? That same Krishna? What do I have to do with a person who's broken the hearts of the cowherd girls of Vrindavan? What do I have to do with this Krishna? And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became completely angry and he started chasing these people with a stick. And he said, catch them, let's kill them immediately. So he's chasing these people all over town and they finally were able to escape. And they said, this Nimai Pandit has gone completely mad. We're lucky we made it out with our lives. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nimai Pandit, he began to contemplate this circumstance as to what is going on in Nadia, that I've come to give this medicine which is meant to remove the mucus of materialistic life. But instead of the medicine having an effect in removing the mucus is simply increasing. So something needs to be done about this. So bringing Nityananda Prabhu into a sacred place, they sat down very confidentially and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to tell Nityananda Prabhu, my dear Prabhu, very soon I will take to the renounced order of life, shave my head and leave home. And I'm seeking your blessings that this can be the case. And Nityananda Prabhu, hearing of Mahaprabhu's intentions, that he would shave his beautiful locks of hair which were worshipable by all the demigods. The beauty of Nimai Pandit was inconceivable to the mind of the world. The beautiful black locks of hair which draped over his shoulders was the most worshipful head of hair that anyone can possibly imagine. Much more beautiful than any Bollywood star or Hollywood movie actor that you can think of nowadays. He was so beautiful with those black locks of hair. And when Nityananda Prabhu began to think of Mahaprabhu having his locks of hair shaved off of his head, he couldn't bear it within his heart, so he just remained silent. And he said, my dear Lord, you're supremely independent. If this is your desire, what can be done? So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Nityananda Prabhu, my dear Nityananda, please tell Chandrasekhar Acharya, please tell Mukunda, please tell Gadadhar, please tell Brahmananda Bharati, and please tell Mother Sachi my intentions, that very soon I will be taking sannyas. When the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard of Mahaprabhu's intentions, particularly Gadadhar Pandit, who was Nimai Pandit's best friend since childhood, they practically grew up together and they were so close that Gadadhar Pandit, wherever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went, Gadadhar Pandit would be there. And even when Nimai Pandit was a bit of an arrogant scholar, Gadadhar Pandit, although Mahaprabhu would make fun of him and try to debate with him, Gadadhar Pandit always dealt with Nimai Pandit in an affectionate way. When Nimai Pandit first had returned from Gaya, and was experiencing intense separation from Krishna after having been initiated by Ishvara Chandra Puri. At one point he was asking, "Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna?" And Gadadhar Pandit said, "My dear Lord, Krishna is sitting in your heart." And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to rip open his skin. And Gadadhar Pandit said, "My Lord, please stop. Just wait. Krishna is coming. Krishna is coming." So Sachi Mata, seeing Gadadhar Pandit deal with Nimai in this way, she said, "My dear Gadadhar, please never leave my Nimai." This is very significant. There's many reasons for this relationship between Gadadhar Pandit and Nimai Pandit. And it's one of deep love and deep affection. It's a type of love and affection which can't be understood within the context of our ordinary relationships of this world. It's one of transcendence and it's one of eternality, and it's one that, as the Srimad Bhagavatam explains, it's something which needs to be revealed in the heart of a genuine devotee. Jnanam paramaguyamne. It's a very confidential tattva. But when Gadadhar Pandit heard of Nimai Pandit's intentions for taking sannyas, the only thing he could think of was, what will Mother Sachi think? What will Mother Sachi, who's already lost Jagannath Mishra, who's gone back to Vaikuntha, what will she think when she hears that her second son will be taking sannyas when her first son Vishnurup has already done so? What will be the pain which she experiences in her heart? But knowing that Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that other pundits said if this is his will, there's nothing that can be done about it. So the day before Mahaprabhu took sannyas or left home, he was going out on Sankirtan and all the devotees were so happy to be with him. It was one of the most jubilant days in Nadia, in which all the devotees from everywhere were coming and seeing Mahaprabhu, bringing him garlands, bringing him sandalwood paste. No one in Nadia knew that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going to take sannyas except those 5 devotees. But by the prompting of Krishna within the heart, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gathered all of his devotees in Nadia. And all of those devotees came and participated in day-long Harinam Sankirtan throughout the streets of Navadvip. And they would go sit by the Ganga, and every devotee had sandalwood paste, had garlands, and they all were able to fulfill all of their desires in relationship to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They felt so jubilant to be in Mahaprabhu's association that day before he took sannyas. As the evening approached, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned home, and Kolavecha Sridhar, who was one of Mahaprabhu's favorite devotees as a child, who he would steal banana leaves from, who he would steal bananas from and barter with him and create some difficulties for him. Kolavecha Sridhar came and he had brought a squash or a pumpkin to Mahaprabhu. And although it was getting late, Mahaprabhu said, "There's no way if I take sannyas I can eat this tomorrow." So he requested Mother Sati to please cook this now. Kolavecha Sridhar has brought it. In reciprocation with his pure devotee's love and his pure devotee's simple offering, Mahaprabhu accepted that pumpkin with such gratitude and such love in reciprocation of the love of Kolavecha Sridhar. And shortly after Kolavecha Sridhar, someone came and brought a pot of milk. So they cooked the pumpkin and milk together and they made a type of sweet rice out of it. So Mahaprabhu ate that with great relish, remembering the love of Kolavecha Sridhar. So as the evening approached, Mahaprabhu laid down, and Mother Sachi, knowing what was going to come, she simply stayed up all night weeping and weeping and weeping, simply crying and crying and crying. Unable to sleep, she just simply sat at the door, knowing that Mahaprabhu would be taking sannyas. Then, about 2 hours before the sunrise, around 3 o'clock in the morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rose from his bed and he was leaving home. He would be leaving his young, beautiful wife, Krishna Priya, only 14 years old. He would be leaving his dear, affectionate mother, Sachi. And he'd be leaving all the associates of Nadia who had so much love and attachment to him. When this pastime is spoken, we should think, how does this relate to me? How does this relate to my advancement in Krishna consciousness? What we can meditate on is that the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who are forever residing in Navadvip, those associates who are deeply attached to Mahaprabhu, specifically in his Navadvip Leela, for the associates like Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Srivas Thakur, Mother Sachi, Vishnupriya, for these devotees, they can't think, why does our Nimai have to take sannyas? If he's the supreme personality of Godhead, if he controls everything in this world, if he owns everything in this world and is simultaneously not attached to any of it, what is the need for him to take sannyas? If he needs to deliver the world, he can do so simply by a glance. He can deliver everyone simply by his glance. If his mission is to give everyone the opportunity to to receive Krishna prema simply by his desiring, they can receive it. Why does he need to leave us all? Why does he need to leave the town of Nadia? Why does he need to leave Navadvip? Simply for the sake of fulfilling these purposes. For them, they can't conceive in their heart. Why does Nimai Pandit have to take sannyas? And this is burning their entire existence. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as he was leaving, Mother Sachi was standing there at the door, simply crying in silence. And Nimai Pandit approached her and said, "My dear mother, since I was a child, you cared for me, you raised me." And putting his hand on her chest, he told her, "I will never leave you, I'll always be with you." And Mother Sachi, not being able to bear the fact that Nimai Pandit would leave forever, she would simply remain silent and hang her head and was just crying and crying and crying. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left me. So Mother Sachi, standing at the door of her home, outside of her home, in that time in conventional Hindu society, no woman would leave the inner compound of the house. There was no need for them to. It wasn't in the culture. But Mother Sachi, feeling such intense grief that Mahaprabhu had left, she lost all sense of worldly conventional circumstances and simply stood at the door like a stone, like a statue, staring off into the distance, knowing that Nimai Pandit was gone forever, and she simply wept inside of her heart, and tears poured from her eyes unlimited. So Nimai Pandit, he left his home in Mayapur and he began to proceed toward the island of Rudradweep, and he entered the, the water of the Ganga in the middle of the month of Magh. In the month of Magh, on Makara Sankranti, this is an extremely cold time of the year, especially in West Bengal. The fog, it's so cold. If anyone's been in Mayapur at that particular time, you'll see many of the devotees, they're wearing 2 or 3 chaddars over just to keep warm. And Mahaprabhu is leaving all of this, swimming through the Ganga, and then walking all the way to Katwa in the cold. The associates of Mahaprabhu and Navadvip, they can't stand that Mahaprabhu has to go through all this suffering. So many devotees, as I was saying earlier, when they hear this pastime, beginning on Makara Sankranti day, they minimize their eating, they minimize their bodily demands, and they increase their hearing and thanking, because if Mahaprabhu is going through so much uncomfort, the separation which the devotee feels meditating on that uncomfort, they can't stand it. So in order to give some relief to that feeling of separation, they minimize their eating. They just take some simple boiled rice, maybe a little bit of dal. And in this way, they go on living for 3 days. Because on the third day, Mahaprabhu will return people. This is the mood of the sannyas lila of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is leaving the loving association of his wife, of Mother Sachi, and he's accepting the world as his family. To give us all the opportunity to become Krishna conscious. But simultaneously, in the process of giving the world Krishna consciousness, he simultaneously gifted the residents of Navadvip with the deepest moods of love and separation from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when we hear this pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sannyas Lila, we should try to become emotionally involved in the pastime and try to feel the separation, meditate on the separation of Mother Sati, meditate on the mood of what the residents of Navadvip must be feeling when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taking sannyas. Not that we imitate it, it's not that we impose artificial emotions, but we simply try to meditate and take in the mood of the pastime. And in this way, when we approach a day like Makara Sankranti, it's not just a New Year day, but it's a day to cultivate deep feelings and deep attachment to the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the deeper we become attached to the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the more and more we become detached from the pullings of this material world. Thank you very much. So it's 8:16. I didn't want to take too much time. There's a lot more to this pastime, actually, much more. But I wanted to be respectful to the time of the class. So maybe we can have some time for discussion. Is that okay?
Devotees have any questions they can ask, even in online means.
Question?
Thank you for this beautiful narration. So I observed one thing that you have a lot of taste for shlokas and you have a lot of taste for especially the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is just a personal question. So how do we develop such taste and what is the key to developing this taste for hearing pastimes of Chaitanya
Shusho Shadadanasya Vasudeva Kitavichi Yamaha Sevanavitra Punya Punya Seva. The only way to get attachment for the process of hearing and chanting is to, according to our limited ability, take the mission of the spiritual master to be a very serious matter. If we make the mission of the spiritual master our life and soul, the execution of that mission our only desire in life, and as Lord Kishordas Babaji told Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in his initiation, he put his feet on Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's head and he told him, preach the absolute truth, leaving all other things aside. If we make the master that serious, or we're willing to leave aside all other activities, all other pullings of the mind and senses, and we're willing to tolerate our own lack of qualification in the process of trying to fill that order, then even if we aren't successful in externally producing any practical results, we will be blessed by the spiritual master to get a taste for the pastimes of teaching to the life. I wouldn't say I have attachment to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. If I had attachment for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, then um, I probably would have had to end the class 45 minutes ago because speaking it would be too much to handle. You understand? So because I'm not there, I wouldn't say I have attachment. If one has attachment for speaking Mahaprabhu's pastimes, this pastime is unbearable for devotees to speak about it because it's so painful for Agora Bhakta to speak about. You'll notice on our altar, we don't worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a mood of a sannyasi because that mood, it's not so attractive to us. We like to meditate on Mahaprabhu and Mayapur because Mahaprabhu is a sannyasi. He's our worshipable deity. So we want to give him the best food. We want him to give him the best comfort. We want him to see he has the best of everything. But when he's in the mood of a sannyasi, he's sleeping on the bare floor. He's taking a little bit of food. He's following chaturmasya. He's walking through, the forest paths with no trees on. This should give pain to the heart of a devotee. But the formula which has been given by the Srimad Bhagavatam to develop attachment to the pastimes of the Lord is through the service of the spiritual man. And if we can take that mission seriously, then the natural byproduct is that we will have an attraction to these pastimes. We will develop an emotional involvement in these things. They won't just be things that we're hearing, but they'll be things that we're entering into. And those emotions will rub off on us. They'll become a part of our life. And they'll become the primary motivation for our practice of Krishna consciousness. Rather than just following Krishna consciousness according to the prescriptions of what the scriptures are telling us to do, the emotions which are moving us through the hearing of these pastimes will be the primary source of inspiration for our chanting, will be the primary source of inspiration for our service, and will be the primary source of inspiration for our continued advancement in Krishna consciousness. All through the service of the spiritual master. This is why every morning we say, Shri Guru Charana Padma, Prema Bhakti. Shri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakti Sadhana. That through the worship of attaining the Sri Guru Pada Padma, the feet of the lotus feet of the spiritual master, that is pairing Kevala Bhakti, pure devotional service. So if we can please that personality who is a living example of pure devotion, then we can assimilate that pure devotion into our heart by their grace, by the divine grace of the Guru disciplic succession. All the emotions which the acharyas are bearing can be made accessible to us. It's just a matter of how much are we willing to surrender to the service which is being given by them freely. Thank you. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So we see the love and affection of all the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's immense, and the unbearable separation they feel from Lord Chaitanya. This, this pastime, we have heard this several times in the past. We are able to appreciate it, but we never get the feeling of, uh, the feeling of feeling this
Pain.
pastime as unbearable.
Mm.
And so my question is it really possible? Because practically in our institution, we hardly see anybody, having that kind of an affection, crying, or maybe I may be wrong, they may not be displaying it publicly, but I understand that practically we hardly see any devotee having that kind of a feeling.
Mm.
So, is it that we need to wait for the mercy, or is it a long process? or is it definitely possible, although a devotee may be sincerely practicing, following, and serving his spiritual master?
That's a good question. One thing that we can meditate on in relationship to this question is what the Srimad Bhagavatam says about love for Krishna. In this verse, Evamvrata Swapriyanama Kirtyat, in the commentary to that verse, Madhvacharya explains that there are two ways in which one can manifest love for God. That is an external manifestation of tears falling from the eyes, rolling on the ground, hair standing on end. The only difficulty is that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati often emphasized that those who have duplicitous motives can manifest these symptoms just as an actor on stage can manifest crying. In the same way, those who are of an impure character, for the sake of name and fame, can manifest so-called ecstatic symptoms. So how do we evaluate whether someone is actually experiencing love for Krishna? And the two qualities which Madhvacharya says, whether one is exhibiting external symptoms or whether those internal symptoms are very deep within the heart of the person. And it may not necessarily manifest externally through the physical changing of the body because those emotions are kept so deeply within the heart. They may not be manifesting externally. The two qualities which we can observe in someone who has deep attachment for the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the pastimes of the Lord is one, they always show up for their service. So if we see devotees who have been serving Srila Prabhupada's mission with the same enthusiasm for the past 40 or 50 years, we can understand this is a very advanced personality, especially with the enthusiasm that they had when they were young has increased despite the fact they may be having health problems, despite the fact they may be getting older. That same enthusiasm to serve is not diminishing, but it's actually increasing and becoming more and more and more. And anyone who's had association with their spiritual master, any spiritual master in ISKCON, anyone who's had close association of being a personal servant, practically any personal servant that I've spoken to, they say it's extremely difficult to keep up with them. I know one devotee who's probably one of the most intense personalities I've ever met in my entire life. He's a disciple of Gopal Krishna Maharaj, and he does traveling Sankirtan in North America. This devotee drives an average of 20 to 30,000 miles a year distributing Srila Prabhupada's books in the van. He's completely dedicated to book distribution. And people have difficulty keeping up with him when they're traveling. But he told me that I have difficulty keeping up with Gopal Krishna Maharaj. So that's one characteristic is they keep showing up for their service. We can go through a long list of Prabhupada disciples who have been serving Srila Prabhupada's mission with the same vigor and the same intensity and the same enthusiasm that they were serving when they first joined the movement. That enthusiasm has never diminished. That innocence has never diminished. In fact, it's increased. So this is one symptom. The second symptom is that they're always speaking merciful vibration. Merciful vibrations means they're always glorifying Krishna. Whatever comes from their mouth is pure Krishna Katha. And anyone who's had close association with their spiritual master, everyone can practically experience this, that the spiritual master is constantly absorbed in glorifying Krishna. Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitra Gita Paditra Madhyam Manasora Sena. They're always speaking Mahaprabhu's Shiksha. They're always chanting Mahaprabhu's names. And they're always glorifying the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You can see this. And even if they're just speaking verses of the Bhagavad Gita, we should understand that this is the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu flowing through this person. The repository of all Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings was manifested in the heart of Srila Rupa Goswami due to his deep humility, which cracked the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as what Kaviraj Goswami says. That when Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami surrendered to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu said, "My heart is breaking seeing your humility." And when Mahaprabhu's heart broke, the contents of his most confidential instructions were imparted into the heart of Srila Sanatana and Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami was established as the head of the Sampradaya due to his deep humility and his deep faith in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So those same instructions which were spoken by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Rupa Goswami in the banks of Prayagraj, the same instructions which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke to Sanatana Goswami on the banks of Varanasi. Those same instructions have been carefully preserved through a pure guru-disciplic succession over the course of time, and that flow of Rupa Goswami's Vani, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Vani, has manifested in the life of our respective spiritual master. And those instructions we can take to be non-different from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions. So it's not a matter of seeing the apparent qualities. We shouldn't be so much caught up on what's apparent, but we should try to pay attention to what's real. And what's real can only be seen through the eyes of Shastra. So when we see that what's being spoken on the banks of Prague, when we're reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then we hear our spiritual masters' classes, we see the same instructions are being spoken, the same principles are being spoken. So this means that the line of Srila Rupa Goswami is alive and well, and those purified, elevated Paramahamsa Vaishnavas who are giving those instructions to the entire world have the ability to electrify us with that same current of Srila Rupa Goswami's Vani. That can electrify us, and we ourselves can become empowered in that Guru disciplic succession. So it's not about the apparent consideration. We have to look a little bit deeper and see the obvious qualities which will manifest whether there's external symptoms or no external symptoms. And those two qualities Madhvacharya explains. These devotees always show up for their service and are always speaking the merciful vibrations which are coming from Srila Rupa Raghunath. If those are the qualities which are manifesting in the heart, manifesting in the character of the Vaishnavas, although we may not see them displaying the symptoms of ecstatic love, we can understand through these two symptoms that there is a deep emotion and a deep attachment to the service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Buddhism within their heart. Does that answer your question?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful class. Just a clarification. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took the initiation from Keshava Bharati, who was from the Sankacharya lineage.
He took sannyasa initiation from Keshava Bharati, is that what you're saying?
Yes. So what is the significance? Why at that time we didn't have any Vaishnava Jews to take the sannyasa?
Actually, it's explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Keshava Bharati is a covered Vaishnava. He was a covered Vaishnava. And also, Mahaprabhu took the Ekadanda sannyas, and then on his way to Jagannath Puri, Nityananda Prabhu broke it into 3 points, which gave a good lesson to Mayavadis, that there's no such thing as Ekadanda, but there's only Tridanda. So it was manifested in that way in order to give a lesson through the medium of Nityananda Prabhu, who's guru for the entire world. But there's no such thing as Ekadanda, there's only Tridanda. He broke his sannyas danda in 3 places, and then he also threw it in a river because he felt Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the supreme personality of Godhead. That's his need for this. So there's a commentary in the Chaitanya Charitamrita answering this specific question, but specifically why it was that case, because Keshava Bharati was a covered Vaishnava, and Mahaprabhu was actually able to free him from that Shankara school of thought. And in the Gauragona Desh Deepika, it is explained that Keshava Bharti was none other than Apura in Krishna Lila. So just as Apura brought Krishna out of Vrindavan, Keshava Bharti brought Chaitanya Mahaprabhu out of Navadvip. So Gaura Lila is Krishna Lila and Krishna Lila is Gaura Lila. And if we can just look a little bit deeper, then we can see how Krishna Lila is manifesting through the medium of Gaura Lila. And that attachment for Gaura Lila in due course of time will manifest in a deep attachment to the pastimes of Krishna. And this is our proper medium of approach. Approach Radha and Krishna through the medium of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in service to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the safe route for all devotees. Sri Chaitanya.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for explaining to us what is the mood we should approach Sankranti, how the Navadvip Vasis, they were having pain by seeing how Lord Chaitanya taking the process sannyas, that he is leaving home and swimming through Ganges in the Marganas and then walking to Katwa. So we should develop that mode so that Prabhuji was explaining that by cultivating that mode, one gets inspiration to follow the instructions of the spiritual master and serve and chant mostly. So we express our gratitude once by loudly chanting Hare Krishna mantra to His Grace Devavrat Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much.